Somewhere in Connecticut, a machine is being assembled that can lift an entire tank off a battlefield, and almost no one is allowed to watch.
3 engines producing 22,500 total shaft horsepower. More than 12 Formula One cars combined.
Every billet that enters this facility carries a metallurgical passport, tracing its elements back to the smelter.
This single longeron will carry the full weight of a 27,000-pound external load slung beneath the aircraft. 1 micron of variation here becomes 1 millimeter at the rotor tip, and that is unacceptable.
250,000 fasteners will hold this airframe together, and every single hole must be within 0.2 of a millimeter.
The hole must be drilled, reamed, and inspected 3 times before a single fastener is installed. 3 fuselage sections built simultaneously in 3 different bays. They will not meet until each is perfect. 24 layers of carbon fiber, each oriented to a different angle. The skin will be stronger than steel at 1/5 the weight. At 350 degrees and 85 psi, the resin will flow, wet out every fiber, and lock the molecular structure forever. Every square centimeter of this panel is ultrasonically inspected. A single void larger than 3 millimeters means rejection. These 3 sections were built by different teams who may never meet. Their work converges in this single moment. This fastener will never be removed. The airframe is now one structure for the rest of its operational life. This deck will absorb 22,000 horsepower. Any misalignment at this stage becomes a vibration that destroys the transmission. 0.07 of a millimeter, about the thickness of a human hair, is the margin between perfect and failure. Every torque value on this aircraft is recorded and stored for the life of the airframe. Accountability that spans decades. Each T408 engine burns 1,000 pounds of fuel per hour at maximum power and produces enough electricity to power 40 homes.
This engine will be removed and replaced 3 times during the aircraft's lifetime, each time in less than 4 hours, on a ship at sea.
Every fluid connection on this aircraft is torque sealed with paint. A single glance reveals a lifetime of integrity.
This gearbox contains gears that will spin at 15,000 RPM for thousands of hours and must never fail.
50,000 pounds of clamping force at each of 12 points. This gearbox will not move. At full power, this shaft will spin at 4,000 RPM. 0.02 of an inch of runout is all that is permitted.
7 blades per aircraft, each one 30 feet long, yet balanced to within the weight of a paperclip.
All 7 blades on one aircraft must be matched to within 2 gram-centimeters. The vibration of imbalance never sleeps.
1,500 parts in this hub alove the portents, and every single one is serialized and tracked from forge to flight. In less than 15 seconds, this actuator folds a 30-foot blade board, turning a 99-foot rotor span into a stowable 27 feet, 1,450 foot-pounds, and this single bolt will never be removed unless the hub is destroyed. 3 independent hydraulic systems, GROTE. If 2 fail completely, the third can still fly the aircraft home.
12 psi of pressure decay over 5 minutes picate across 47 test points. That is effectively 0 leakage.
3,000 feet of wiring in every King Stallion, enough to reach from this cockpit to the top of the rotor mast 9 times.
3 independent flight computers vote on every pilot command, and if one disagrees, it is outvoted in microseconds.
Every antenna on this aircraft is electrically bonded to the airframe coins. The lightning strike of a thunderstorm must pass around the crew, not through them.
This ramp will open in flight at 150 knots to airdrop a several-ton vehicle TARDIS, and close again without a single degree of pitch change. This inflatable seal will pressurize to 12 psi in flight, enough to hold back a Category 4 hurricane at altitude. Boron carbide, SOOT, the third hardest material known, SOOT, will shatter an incoming round by being harder than the bullet itself.
The Kevlar liner does not stop a bullet, and it catches the fragments of the ceramic tile after it has shattered the round.
This landing gear will absorb a sink rate of 12 feet per second, a controlled crash onto a carrier deck. A tail rotor strike on the deck costs $20 million in 6 months. This small wheel prevents that with absolute reliability.
For the first time, this aircraft has moved a control surface. The gear cycle is the opening heartbeat of a living machine.
One drop of paint in a pitted static port will cost $10,000 to troubleshoot. The masking is as critical as the spraying.
The Aladyne film is only a few microns thick, but without it, the aluminium would begin corroding within weeks of exposure to salt air. The primer is the anchor. Every layer that follows will bond to this epoxy, not to the metal itself.
The matte finish scatters radar waves and reduces the aircraft's visual signature, saying, "This paint is a weapon system in its own right."
It has never turned a rotor quouty, but within the hour, 22,000 horsepower will spin those blades for the first time.
3 engines, 12,000 moving parts, and every one of them is functioning perfectly. For now, the factory still holds its breath.
22,000 horsepower in slow motion. A glimpse of the physics that happens faster than the human eye can register.
0.18 inches per second, a vibration level so low that a coin balanced on the transmission would not tip over.
From this factory on the banks of the Connecticut River, the world's most powerful helicopter takes flight, and almost no one is allowed to watch.
Stratford Tower, Sikorsky 53K, November 53 Kilo, ready for departure. The tower has cleared them for hover. In moments, this aircraft will leave the ground for the very first time.
First flight winging, the moment when a factory becomes a birthplace and a machine becomes an aircraft. At 3,800 psi, this strut absorbs the equivalent of a 75,000-pound object falling from a second-story window.
A single dust nib caught in the topcoat would corrode within months at sea, and this paint will face salt spray for 30 years.
120% torque soaked. For 2.5 minutes, this aircraft produces enough power to lift a fully loaded fire engine.
It leaves the factory as it arrived froze, with a signature, a handshake, and the understanding that it will never come back.
Somewhere in Connecticut, a machine was built that can lift an entire tank off a battlefield. And now you have watched it happen.
Stratford ground, Sikorsky test, radio check on VHF 121.7. Sikorsky test, Stratford ground, loud and clear, 5x5.
This aircraft will carry enough fuel to fly from New York to Miami without refueling floats, and not a single drop will be wasted. The final inspection is not performed by a factory worker, but by the pilot who will fly it into battle. Trust is a currency spent in person.